You don't move to Tokyo to become a father 5 times over. You move to Tokyo because you're 28 and your life back home has all the forward momentum of a parked car. You've got a marketing degree gathering dust, a lease you split with 2 roommates who communicate exclusively through passive-aggressive sticky notes, and a dating history so unremarkable your friends describe your type as whoever responds. Your plan, if the word plan can be stretched that thin, is simple. Teach English for a year, experience something different, maybe learn enough Japanese to order food without pointing at pictures like a tourist with a concussion. 1 year. Clean exit. 0 complications. You land at Narita with 2 suitcases and the kind of optimism that only exists in people who've never tried to navigate Japanese bureaucracy. The apartment is in Nakano, a neighborhood the real estate agent described as authentic, which you'll learn means far from anything useful and close to a train line that stops running at midnight. The room is small enough that you can touch 3 walls without moving your feet. The bathroom is a plastic cube where the shower, sink, and toilet share the same square meter in what feels less like efficiency and more like a dare. Rent is 78,000 yen a month. That's about $550. In Tokyo, that makes it a deal. Anywhere else, it makes it a storage unit with plumbing. You meet Yuki first. She works at the conversation school where you teach, handle scheduling and student inquiries with a precision that makes you feel like you've been operating in permanent chaos your entire life. She's 26, speaks English with barely an accent, and has a smile that she deploys exactly twice per conversation, always at moments that make you feel like you've earned something. You ask her to coffee after your 2nd week. She says yes in a way that sounds like maybe, but shows up anyway. The coffee turns into dinner. Dinner turns into walks through Shinjuku at night, where the neon makes everything look like a music video. And she explains the difference between types of ramen with the seriousness of someone describing blood types. 3 months in, she tells you she's pregnant. You're in your apartment, the one where you can touch 3 walls. And she says it in English because the news is too big for her Japanese comfort zone. You sit on the floor because there's no couch, and your brain does what brains do when they're trying to process information they're not ready for. It loops. Pregnant. 3 months. Yours. She's not asking what you want to do. She's telling you what's happening. The conversation lasts an hour. She wants to keep it. You don't know what you want because wanting requires a plan, and you don't have one of those anymore. You meet Akemi at an izakaya in Shibuya a month later. You're there because sitting in your apartment means thinking about Yuki, and thinking about Yuki means confronting a future you haven't agreed to yet. Akemi is 29, works in pharmaceutical sales, drinks whiskey like it's tea, and laughs at things that aren't jokes in a way that makes you feel funnier than you are. She asks if you're seeing anyone. You hesitate just long enough for it to be a lie when you say no. She doesn't care or doesn't notice. You exchange line IDs. The messages start that night. Within 2 weeks, you're meeting twice a week. Within a month, the meetings have a pattern. Within 6 weeks, she tells you she's late. Not pregnant, just late. Then 2 weeks after that, not late. Pregnant. After. Hana works at a cafe near your apartment. You started going there because it's close and the coffee is cheap, and she started remembering your order, which felt like friendship in a city where most interactions are transactional and temporary. She's 24, studies graphic design part-time, and has the kind of energy that makes 6 a.m. shifts seem like a personality trait instead of a job requirement. You ask her out after she draws a cat on your cup for the 5th morning in a row. The dates are easy. She talks, you listen. She shows you parts of Tokyo she loves, tiny parks and second-hand bookstores, and a shrine in Kichijoji, where she says she goes when she needs to think. 2 months in, she stops texting as much. Then she shows up at your apartment at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday and tells you before she's even through the door. Pregnant. Hers. Yours. She's not crying, but her hands won't stop moving. She doesn't want to keep it, but she also doesn't want to not keep it. And the space between those two things is where you both stand in your doorway while the neighbor's TV plays a baseball game through the wall. Misaki is a translator you meet at a language exchange event you only attended because Yuki asked where you were spending your evenings, and lying required more energy than just going. Misaki is 31, divorced, has a son she sees every other weekend, and treats dating like a skill she's deliberately trying to improve at through practice and analysis. She's direct in a way that would be off-putting if it wasn't so efficient. She asks if you're looking for something serious. You say you don't know, which is the first honest thing you've said to anyone in weeks. She says that's fine. She's not either. 3 months later, she is. Pregnant, not serious. Though the pregnancy makes things serious whether either of you intended it or not. Sayaka is a bartender in Roppongi. You meet her at 1 a.m. on a Friday when you're too wired to sleep and too tired to care about being awake. She makes an old-fashioned that tastes like someone actually thought about what they were doing. You stay until closing. She asks if you want to get food. You end up at a 24-hour gyuden place eating beef bowls in fluorescent lighting while she tells you about growing up in Osaka and why she moved to Tokyo and how her family stopped talking to her when she told them she was bisexual. You exchange numbers. The texts are sporadic, late night, unfiltered. You see her when schedules align, which isn't often, but when they do, it's the kind of easy that doesn't ask questions. Until she does. She's pregnant. 8 weeks. She knows it's yours because there's no one else it could be, and she's not interested in pretending otherwise. 5 women. 5 pregnancies. 5 separate realities that are about to converge in ways you can't predict but can feel approaching like weather. You haven't told any of them about the others. Not because you planned to keep it secret, but because each situation felt isolated until they weren't. Until they were all happening simultaneously in the same city where train lines connect every neighborhood, and coincidence is just a function of population density and time. Yuki is the first to find out. Not because you tell her, because Akemi calls your phone while you're at Yuki's apartment, and Yuki sees the name on the screen and asks who Akemi is, with a tone that already knows the answer. You tell Yuki the truth because lying at this point would require an organizational system you don't possess. You tell her about Akemi, about the pregnancy, about the fact that this isn't the only pregnancy. You don't tell her how many, not yet. She sits on the edge of the bed and her face does something you've never seen before. Not anger, not sadness. Calculation, like she's running numbers in her head and none of them are adding up to anything survivable. She asks how many. You say 5. She laughs. Not a real laugh. The kind of laugh that happens when the alternative is something worse. She stands up, walks to the door, opens it, and tells you to leave. You leave. Akemi finds out about Yuki 3 days later because Tokyo is not as big as it pretends to be, and the English teaching community is smaller than anyone admits. Someone saw you. Someone always sees you. She calls you and her voice is different, flat. She says she wants to meet. You meet at a family restaurant in Ikebukuro. She sits across from you with a cup of tea she doesn't drink and tells you that her family is traditional. Very traditional. Her father owns a small construction company in Saitama. Her brother works for him. They have expectations about how things should be handled when a daughter gets pregnant. She says this slowly, like she's reading from a script someone else wrote. She says marriage isn't optional in her situation. It's structural. You say you can't marry her. She says you don't understand. Her brother knows people. She doesn't elaborate on what that means, but the way she says it makes your stomach drop. You ask if she's threatening you. She says she's explaining reality. You leave the restaurant and walk for 2 hours through neighborhoods you don't recognize because standing still feels like being found. Misaki is different. She's practical to the point of being clinical. She tells you over the phone that she's keeping the baby and she doesn't need anything from you except medical history and a signature on some forms. No drama. No expectations. You feel relief until she mentions that she told her ex-husband. He's a lawyer. He's interested in the situation from a legal perspective. She says it neutrally, like she's commenting on weather. You ask what that means. She says he's just asking questions. Questions about your visa status, your employment, whether you're on any other birth certificates in Japan. You're not. But the way she phrases it makes you realize you could be. Soon. Multiple times. You stop answering her calls. Sayaka is the one who tells you about the infection. She says it clinically, like she's reporting a fact. Chlamydia. Treatable. She's already been treated. You should get tested. She doesn't ask where you got it. She knows where you got it. Or rather, she knows it came from the same place everything else is coming from. The overlapping geometry of 5 separate situations that were never supposed to intersect. You get tested. Positive. You get treated. You tell no one because telling anyone means admitting the network exists, but the network already knows. Yuki sees you at the clinic. She's there for a prenatal appointment. You're there picking up antibiotics. She doesn't say anything. She just looks at you and you watch something die in her face. Something that was still hoping you were better than this. You get a message from a number you don't recognize. It's in Japanese. Formal Japanese. It says someone wants to meet you. It lists an address in Shinjuku, an office building. You don't go. You get another message. This one has a photo attached. It's you leaving your apartment. Time stamped yesterday morning. No text, just the photo. You change your route to work, you start leaving at different times. You see a man in a black jacket outside your building 3 times in 1 week. Different times, same jacket. You don't know if he's actually following you or if paranoia has progressed to the point where every stranger is a threat. Both feel true. Akemi shows up at your apartment. You don't know how she got the address because you never gave it to her. She stands in the hallway and says her father wants to meet you. She says it's not optional. She says if you don't come willingly, they'll find another way. You ask what that means. She doesn't answer. She just leaves an address on a piece of paper and walks away. You don't go. 2 days later, your apartment door is unlocked when you get home. Nothing is missing. Nothing is broken. But someone was inside. You know because your things have been moved. Not much, just enough to know. You stay at a capsule hotel that night. Then another. Then you stop going back to the apartment because going back means being findable. Misaki's ex-husband files something with immigration. You don't know what. You just get a letter requiring you to appear at the Immigration Bureau for an interview regarding your residency status. The letter mentions inconsistencies in your registered address and questions about dependents. You have no dependents on record. Soon, you'll have 5. The math doesn't work, the visa doesn't work, nothing works. Sayaka finds you at the bar where you first met. You're there because it's the only place you can think of where you're not expected to be. She sits next to you and orders a drink and doesn't look at you. She says she's not keeping it. She already made the appointment. She doesn't need anything from you. She just wanted you to know that one of the 5 is now 4. She finishes her drink and leaves. You sit there until the bartender asks if you're okay. You say, yes. You're lying. Yuki calls. You don't answer. She calls again. Then again. On the 4th call, you pick up. She's crying. She says she went to the police. She filed a report about harassment. She didn't name you, but she described the situation. A foreign man involved with multiple women, potential immigration violations. The officer took notes. She says she's sorry. She says she didn't know what else to do. You hang up. You pack a bag. Not the apartment bag because you haven't been to the apartment in a week. The bag you've been carrying. 1 change of clothes, passport, cash. You take the last train to Yokohama because Yokohama isn't Tokyo, and not being in Tokyo feels like the only move left that hasn't been tried. You check into a business hotel in Yokohama under a fake name. The clerk doesn't care. You pay cash. The room smells like cigarettes and industrial carpet cleaner. You lie on the bed and stare at the ceiling and try to figure out how many days you can survive on the cash in your bag before you have to surface somewhere that has your name attached to it. The answer is maybe 2 weeks if you eat convenience store rice balls and don't move. 2 weeks isn't a plan. It's a countdown. Your phone buzzes. Rena. You haven't heard from her in 3 weeks. The message says she needs to see you. It's important. She's at a family restaurant in Shibuya. She'll wait. You know it's a bad idea. You go anyway because the hotel room is making you feel like you're already in a coffin, and at least Shibuya has crowds you can disappear into if something goes wrong. She's sitting in a booth by the window. She looks different. Not physically, energetically. Like someone who's made a decision and is waiting for you to catch up to it. You sit down. She slides a document across the table. It's a marriage registration form. Pre-filled. Your name. Her name. Date left blank. She says her family knows. They're traditional. Her father said if you marry her, everything gets handled. The other women. The complications. Her family has connections. They can make things quiet. She says it like she's offering you a gift. You say you can't. She says you don't have a choice. She says if you don't sign it, her father will make sure immigration knows everything. Every woman. Every inconsistency. She says this calmly, like she's reading a train schedule. You stand up. She grabs your wrist. Not hard, just enough. She says you have until Friday, then she lets go. You leave through the back exit and walk for an hour without direction. Your phone buzzes again. Akemi. The message says her father wants to meet tomorrow. The address is a building in Roppongi, 4th floor, office suite. She says don't make this harder than it needs to be. You delete the message. You keep walking. The next morning you wake up to pounding on the hotel room door. You don't answer. The pounding continues. A voice says, housekeeping. The accent is wrong, too clean. You look through the peephole. It's not housekeeping, it's 2 men in suits. Japanese, not police, something worse. They knock again. You don't move. You hear one of them say something to the other in Japanese. They leave. You pack your bag in 4 minutes and check out through the side entrance. You're back in Tokyo by noon because Yokohama was never far enough. You find a manga cafe in Ikebukuro. You rent a booth for 6 hours, private, lockable. You try to sleep. You can't. Your phone buzzes. Misaki. The message is a photo. It's a medical report. STD panel. Positive, chlamydia. The next message says you gave it to her. The next message says her lawyer is drafting something. The next message is just a photo of you outside the manga cafe. Taken 10 minutes ago. You look at the door. It's locked. You stay in the booth until your 6 hours are up. When you leave, you don't see anyone following you, but you feel it anyway. Yuki finds you at a convenience store near Shinjuku station at 2 in the morning. You're buying water and a rice ball because you haven't eaten since yesterday. She's standing by the magazines. She doesn't approach, she just watches. You pay, you leave. She follows. Not close. Half a block back, you turn into a side street. She turns too. You stop. She stops. You turn around. She's holding her phone up. Recording. She says she's documenting everything for the police, for immigration, for anyone who'll listen. She says you ruined her life. You say you didn't mean to. She says intent doesn't matter. Outcome does. She keeps recording. You walk away. She doesn't follow this time. You check over your shoulder 3 times anyway. The marriage form deadline passes. Friday comes and goes. Rena doesn't contact you. You think maybe it was a bluff. Then your phone rings. Unknown number. You answer. A man's voice. Older. Speaks Japanese, says he's Rena's father, says you missed the deadline, says his daughter is embarrassed, says embarrassment requires correction. The line goes dead. That night someone breaks your hotel room window, not smashes it, just cracks it, clean, precise, a warning that doesn't need translation. You move again. Different ward, different hotel. You pay cash. You don't use your phone except to check messages you don't want to read. Akemi's father's office sends a formal letter to your registered address. You know because your landlord forwards it to your work email. The letter is in Japanese and English. It references breach of promise, emotional damages, compensation expectations. The amount listed has 6 zeros. You don't have 600 yen right now. 6 zeros is a number that exists in a universe you stopped living in 3 months ago. Sayaka messages. She changed her mind. She's keeping it. She wants child support formalized. She's contacting a lawyer. She says she knows you're running, but running doesn't erase biology. The baby is due in 6 months. She'll find you before then. She says this with certainty, like she's stating a fact rather than making a threat. You're at a train station. You don't remember which one. You've been moving between stations all day because stations have crowds, and crowds feel safer than rooms. Your phone buzzes. Misaki. The message says her ex-husband knows where you work. He filed a complaint. Your employer received it. They want to meet with you Monday morning. The subject line of the forwarded email says disciplinary review. You read it twice, then you turn off your phone. You sit on a platform bench. The last train departed 40 minutes ago. The station is empty except for a cleaning crew and a salaryman sleeping against a pillar. You have 4,000 yen left. No apartment, no plan. 5 women who know your name and your face and the specific ways you're vulnerable. A visa that's held together by an employer who's about to decide you're more trouble than you're worth. And a country that's not yours that you can't leave, because leaving means admitting you built something that collapsed the moment you stopped performing the person they needed you to be. The cleaning crew finishes. The lights dim to overnight mode. The salaryman wakes up and stumbles toward the exit. You stay on the bench, not because you're waiting for something, because there's nowhere left to go that isn't already compromised. Tokyo has 14 million people. You thought that meant you could disappear. You were wrong. 14 million people just means 14 million ways to be found. You don't get on a plane. Not yet. Getting on a plane means using your passport at an airport where immigration has computers, and computers have records, and records have flags that were put there by people whose names you'll never know. You stay. Not because staying is safe, because leaving is impossible. The disciplinary meeting happens on a Monday. Your supervisor is apologetic in that Japanese way where the apology is real, but the outcome isn't negotiable. They've received multiple complaints. Legal concerns they can't keep you on. 2 weeks severance. Your visa sponsorship ends with your employment. You have 90 days to find new sponsorship or leave the country. He says this like it's generous, like 90 days is a gift instead of a countdown to deportation. You walk out of the building and your phone rings. Hana. You haven't heard from her in a month. She's crying. She says she told her parents. They want to meet you. They're traditional. Very traditional. She says her father asked if you were planning to take responsibility. She didn't know how to answer because she doesn't know. She's asking now, you don't have an answer. She hangs up. Rena messages. Her family's lawyer is drafting a lawsuit. Breach of promise. Emotional distress. They're asking for 8 million yen. She says if you marry her, it all goes away. The lawsuit. The other problems. Her family has reach. They know people in immigration. People who can make visa issues disappear. Or appear. She says you have 72 hours to decide. The message includes a photo. It's you, walking out of your former employer's building, taken 20 minutes ago. You don't sleep that night. Or the next. You move between manga cafes and capsule hotels and train station waiting areas. You eat when you remember to. You've lost weight you didn't have to lose. Your clothes fit differently. Your face in bathroom mirrors looks like someone else's face. Someone who made different choices and ended up here anyway. Akemi's brother finds you at a family mart in Nakano at 4 in the morning. You're buying coffee and a rice ball. He walks up while you're at the register. Doesn't say anything. Just stands next to you. Close enough that you can smell cigarette smoke on his jacket. He pays for his items. Leaves. You see him waiting outside. Smoking. Watching the door. You leave through the back exit that doesn't exist. You climb over boxes in the storage area and drop into an alley that smells like restaurant garbage and rain. Your 90 days become 60, then 30. You apply for jobs that require visa sponsorship. Nobody's hiring. Or they are, but not you. Not someone with a gap in employment and a reference from a previous employer who uses words like complicated circumstances when contacted. You apply to language schools, conversation cafes, dispatch companies that send English teachers to elementary schools in the countryside. Nothing. The market is saturated. You're 31 years old with a story nobody wants to inherit. Sayaka sees you in Shibuya. You're crossing the scramble. She's on the other side. She stops. You see her see you. She takes out her phone, points it at you. You don't know if she's taking a photo or recording video. You keep walking, fast, into the crowd. When you look back, she's gone. Your phone buzzes 5 minutes later. It's a photo. You in the scramble. The message says she knows what you look like when you run. She'll know next time too. 20 days left. You have 300,000 yen in your account. That's about $2,000. Enough for a plane ticket. Not enough for what comes after. You look at flights anyway. Seoul, Manila, Bangkok. Cities where English teachers can find work without sponsorship if they're willing to work illegally and live in the margins. You don't buy a ticket. You close the browser. You sit in the manga cafe booth and stare at the ceiling and try to figure out how you got here. The answer is obvious. The answer has always been obvious. You made choices, small ones that felt containable at the time. Coffee with Yuki, drinks with Akemi, late nights with Sayaka. Each choice was a door you walked through thinking you could walk back out. You were wrong. Some doors only open one way. Your phone dies, you don't charge it. Not having a phone means not getting messages. Not getting messages means not knowing what's coming. The not knowing is worse than knowing, but you keep the phone dead anyway because knowing requires being reachable, and being reachable means being findable, and being findable in Tokyo right now means being cornered in ways you can't predict but can feel approaching like vertigo. 10 days. You're in Ueno, on a bench near the park. It's raining. Not hard, the kind of rain that's more mist than water. Your bag is next to you. Everything you own that matters fits in a bag you can carry. That used to feel like freedom. Now it feels like proof. A woman sits down next to you, older, Japanese. She doesn't say anything, just sits. After a while, she asks in English if you're okay. You say yes. She nods. She says you don't look okay. She says this kindly, like an observation, not a judgment. She asks if you have somewhere to go. You say yes. She nods again. She doesn't believe you. She can tell. She opens her bag and takes out a piece of paper. It's a flyer for a support centre, for foreign residents. Help with visa issues. Legal advice. She says it's in Ikebukuro. She says they've helped people before. She puts the flyer on the bench between you and leaves. You sit there until the flyer is too wet to read. Then you leave too. 5 days. You go to the support centre. It's in a building above a convenience store. 3rd floor. The woman at the desk speaks English. She listens to your story, the parts you can say out loud. She takes notes. She asks questions. How many women? How many pregnancies? What's your visa status? When does it expire? She doesn't react. She's heard worse. Or she's good at not showing it. She says they can help with the visa. Maybe. If you find sponsorship. But the other issues, the legal ones, the personal ones, those are harder. She gives you a list of lawyers who work with foreign clients. She says some of them do payment plans. She says this carefully. Like she knows you don't have money for lawyers on any plan. You leave with the list, you don't call any of them. Lawyers require explaining. Explaining requires language you don't have for what you've done. You go back to the manga cafe. You sleep for 14 hours. When you wake up, your visa has 3 days left. You charge your phone. 47 messages, you don't read them. You open a browser, you look at flights. One way, Narita to Bangkok, tomorrow night. 38,000 yen. You have 42,000 yen in your account. You buy the ticket. You use the last of your cash to pay for one more night at the manga cafe. You don't pack because there's nothing to pack that isn't already in your bag. Your phone rings. Unknown number. You answer without thinking. It's Hana. She's at the hospital. She's in labor. She's alone. Her parents won't come. She's calling you because there's no one else to call. She's crying. She says, "Please." You hang up. You put the phone face down on the desk in the manga cafe booth. It rings again. You don't answer. It keeps ringing. You turn it off. You leave the manga cafe at dawn. You take the Narita Express from Tokyo Station. The train is half empty. Businessmen, tourists, people whose lives have destinations that aren't running away. You sit by the window and watch Tokyo disappear behind you for the second time. The first time, you were arriving. This time, you're leaving. The difference is everything. At the airport, you check in. The agent asks if you're checking bags. You say, "No, just carry on." She prints your boarding pass. You go through security. Immigration. The officer scans your passport, looks at the screen, looks at you, scans it again. He asks you to wait. He picks up a phone. Your heart does something your body wasn't designed for. He speaks Japanese. You catch 2 words, visa, expired. He hangs up. He stamps your passport. He hands it back. He says, "Have a safe flight." You take the passport. You walk to the gate. You don't look back because looking back means seeing the country that let you build something you couldn't keep and then watched while it dismantled you piece by piece without intervention or mercy. You board the plane. You find your seat. Window. 32A, you put your bag in the overhead. You sit. The plane fills. A family sits next to you. Mother, father, small child. The child stares at you. You look away. The plane pushes back. You're moving. Not towards something. Away from it. The distinction matters. The plane lifts. Tokyo shrinks. The lights, the buildings, the trains. The 40 million people living their 40 million lives in apartments stacked like filing cabinets, full of stories that don't end cleanly. Yours is one of them now. Filed away. Incomplete. Somewhere in that city, 5 women are living with consequences that have your name attached. 4 pregnancies becoming 4 children who will grow up knowing half of where they came from and nothing about why the other half disappeared. 1 woman who isn't pregnant anymore but remembers you anyway. You don't feel relief. You don't feel regret. You feel the specific emptiness of someone who got exactly what they chose and can't figure out where the choosing went wrong. Every decision made sense at the time. Coffee was just coffee. Drinks were just drinks. Late nights were just late nights. Until they weren't. Until they were something that required more than you had to give. And you gave it anyway and kept giving it until there was nothing left except a seat on a plane going somewhere that isn't the place where your mistakes are waiting to be born. The seatbelt sign turns off. The child next to you falls asleep. The mother reads a magazine. The father stares at his phone. Normal people doing normal things in a metal tube at 35,000 feet. You're surrounded by people whose lives make sense, whose choices led to outcomes they can predict, whose names aren't attached to situations they can't fix and can't escape except by leaving the country entirely. Bangkok is 6 hours away. After that, you don't know. Teaching jobs exist. Illegal ones, cash ones, enough to survive if you're willing to live small and quiet and never use your real name on anything official. You're willing. You don't have a choice. Willingness is what happens when all the other options expire. The plane levels out, the cabin lights dim, most people sleep. You don't. You watch the flight map on the screen in front of you, the little plane icon moving across Asia, getting further from Tokyo, getting closer to whatever comes next. The distance grows, the number increases, kilometers, miles, time zones. None of it feels like enough. Feels like enough. Feels like enough. Feels like enough.